Hey, how's everybody doing this evening? We're gonna make this a really short podcast. I know I say that all the time, but it gets interesting. It really gets interesting sometimes doing these podcasts. But you learn as you do these podcasts, and that's the good thing about it. So I'm just waiting for people to tap in a little bit. As I do that, I just want to remind everybody that we are on several platforms. Facebook. We are on Facebook. We are on YouTube, and we are on TikTok or X, Twitter. So make sure that you're sharing to the channel. Make sure you're subscribing. If you are on Facebook, make sure that you are subscribing to our channel. Now, the topic that we're going to talk about today is Rivian. Like, it almost seems like half of Peoria went over to Rivian to work for Rivian. And I mean, this has been going on for years. I didn't really realize how many people were going to Rivian to find employment. There's something to be said about that, first of all, because I know in order to find a good job like that, here in Peoria, you either have to go to Caterpillar or Keystone, and sometimes it's almost impossible, especially with Caterpillar. If you don't have somebody in your family that work at Caterpillar, sometimes it's impossible to even get in Caterpillar. So those are some of the downfalls with trying to find employment here in Peoria. So a large portion of society in Peoria went to Rivian. And even I applied for a job at Rivian because I think that it's a good company for what it looks like. And I think people are getting paid at Rivian. So definitely not a company to sneeze at. You're talking about $1 billion company, the same as Caterpillar. Probably not as much money as Caterpillar, but definitely $1 billion company. Okay. So, and if you have any comments, make sure you leave your comments and things like that because we want to discuss this new thing that just happened this week, this new announcement that happened this week. And either you live under a rock or if you heard that Rivian is about to cut 10% of their workforce. Now, if you don't know what Rivian is what they say an EV company. Now, correct me if anybody here works for Rivian. Correct me if I'm wrong. But Rivian is an EV company, and that stands for, I'm going to guess at this, electric vehicle. I actually guessed at that. I didn't do the research for that, but I guessed at that. EV stands for electric vehicle. Now, electric vehicles have been around for a little while. This is not a new concept. They've been around for a little while. Elon Musk, the guy who owns X, which we are on this platform, and well, I'm not going to say invented, but introduced electric EVs to the marketplace. And if you don't know your history as far as EV vehicles, it was something that didn't do well at first. At first, it was kind of like what they say, it was a bust. The people were not buying these things because they wanted motor vehicles. Like the majority of people in America want motor vehicles. Something you put gas in, start up, type shit. Excuse me for the noise. But that's just what we're used to. But EV is supposed to be better for the planet and things like that. So, you charge it up and stuff like that. So, but back to the history portion of it, Tesla kind of tanked as far as stocks when it first came out. Elon Musk was just putting a lot of money into something that he believed in, just like pouring a lot of money into a company, hoping that it eventually took off. Now, Elon Musk is a unique character, unique person. So some people are even saying that he might be one of the only ones on earth that can do what he did. However, you have the same repeat with Rivian. Rivian is not making money, so to speak, right now with their product. They're actually losing money for each car they sell. They're actually losing, is what I'm understanding. For each car or truck they sell, they're losing. And the people who invested, the thing about these companies and thing about Rivian, they got a lot of investors to invest a lot of money into their company, into their stocks. So they have a lot of money. It's a $1 billion company. If you go over to Bloomington and you take a look at Rivian, you will step back and say, "Damn!" I think it used to be Mitsubishi, so they bought Mitsubishi plant and things like that. But if you take a look at Rivian, you'll be like, "Damn, they doing something over here," and that's because they have a lot of people who put a lot of money behind their company, behind the idea of another electric automaker on the market. And I don't think, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think Tesla does like trucks and things like that. So I don't think that Tesla does trucks. So you have more of a variety with Rivian. And I see Rivian cars on the road. Like a lot of people do when they see Rivian cars on the road, they're like, "Oh, you see that car? That's a Rivian car," because it is. It's a nice looking car. The headlights and stuff like that. It's a nice looking car. So it attracts a lot of attention. I don't know how much these cars are worth. I do know that just as an employee, you do not get a discount on the cars. That I do know. My first day over there, someone asked, "Do I get a discount on the cars?" The answer was no. Right now, they ain't even thinking about giving discounts. It's only to people who can afford them. If you can't afford a Rivian, you will not be in a Rivian. But I hear they drive nice. It's a lot of pluses to Rivian, and it looks cool as fuck inside. It's got the computer. It's got all of the electric stuff inside, so it's a cool looking car inside and out. So I definitely give it to Rivian for putting style in these EV style vehicles. Now, my podcast talks about the truth about Rivian, the real truth about Rivian. First of all, and we're going to watch a few videos to kind of back up and put a statement on what I'm saying, but they are poised to cut 10% of their workforce. However, for you haters out there who are getting happy that they're going to cut 10% of their workforce, they're going to cut 10% of salaried workers at this point. So the people you see balling and working on these cars, their jobs are safe because they have to continue to make these cars and trucks. That's not going to change. But the people behind the scenes at the desk, their jobs are in jeopardy. Okay? I'm going to say that again. For you haters in the back who are hoping that your friend come home and be like, "Man, I ain't got no job no more. I was making 25 plus an hour. I ain't got no job no more." No, that's not the case. They're not cutting average workers. They're cutting salary workers. So unless your friend is in the job, if your friend wears a tie to work, yeah, he might lose his job. That's not funny, but I'm just saying. So people who are working in the warehouse, third shift, things like that, as of right now, their jobs are safe. But they're definitely losing money every time someone buys a Rivian car. And in the truck, I didn't know that when they buy type of cars like this, you may have to wait for a while, a couple of years. See, when I brought that news, everybody jumped off. Like, damn, okay, throw it in my friend's face. See, you know what I'm saying? It's a lot of hate out. It's a lot of hate out there, y'all. Trust and believe. But I didn't know, like, some of these cars, like when you buy them, like you have to wait for a really long time before you get your car. You may have to wait like a year or something before you get your car. I think I only know one person who drives an EV car, Norman Gates, and I think he was trying to get a Rivian car or something like that. Somebody I know was kind of get a Rivian car, and they were disappointed because they had to wait like a year. And I don't know. I went over to the Bloomington plant. It's like it's a whole lot full of trucks and stuff. I'm like, man, should they just be like, give me one of those? Give me one of those. But apparently, you have to wait for your electric EV car. You can't just buy it like that. Not right now, because they're not like, it's not like Toyota and things like that. So let's keep that in mind too. But to reinforce what I said, if you work at Rivian, a 9 to 5 or first shift, second shift, third shift in the warehouse, your job is safe because they still have to produce these cars. So they're not going to fire their production. I don't think that wouldn't be smart to fire the people who make the cars. You still have to get those cars out there. The people behind the scenes, their jobs are in jeopardy. So 10% of that workforce is going to go. Okay. So Rivian stock is dropping. People are selling their stocks, so their stocks is dropping, and other people are not picking them up, buying them because they're afraid of what might happen to the company. Now, it is rumored, and I don't want to be the one who break this to y'all. So it is rumored that there may be a factory shutdown in the third quarter, before the third quarter, and then because this new car that they're producing is supposed to jump the company and blow the company up, basically make the company the millions and billions of dollars back. That's the new car that they're rolling out. So through the grapevine, there may be a production or a shutdown. There may be a shutdown. Don't quote me on this. This is what investors are saying. That's what people are scared about, because that could that sometimes can bankrupt the company, having a shutdown. So that sometimes can bankrupt the company, and that's what people are nervous about. But like I said, they think this new car is going to make the company get back to where like they need to be in a Tesla type thing. So this new car, exciting new car. But again, you got to wait to 2016 to even get one. I mean, 2022. I said 2016. You got to wait to 2026 to even get your hands on one. What are we at? 2024? 2024. We're at 2024 right now. To even get one of these new cars, you got to wait to 2026. And one of the reasons why you might have to wait so long, because they're right now in the process, if they even started building the plant in Atlanta. So the new plant where they're going to build these new cars are supposedly not supposed to be here in Bloomington. So that makes a lot of people nervous, because they're not going to be building those new cars that are supposed to make the company jump to the next level. Those aren't going to be built in Bloomington. They're going to be built in Atlanta. This new state-of-the-art facility they're making in Atlanta. So just keep those in mind. Those are just a couple of facts and things like that. We're going to watch these videos. And I'm not going to play the whole video because we don't have a lot of time. And then they got to get kind of boring. People are going to be like, man, I don't want to hear that. But then we're going to come back and talk about why I think people are so ready to see some people lose their jobs and things like that and get laid off. Why people are so giddy to see that those things happen. So that's what we're going to take a look at. And then to answer the question, I answer the question, the other question is going to be, is it time to start looking for a new job? So that's going to be one of the questions. But I want to show you this video so you can actually see what they're talking about, and it'll give you a little bit more information. If you are a Rivian employee, this may be really good for you to watch so you can understand what's going on in Rivian, and you can kind of be like, have an understanding. They may be talking to you guys about it at work, but this will give you an understanding from like outside, what the outsiders are saying. So sometimes, they say stuff at work, but this will kind of give you an outside idea what they're saying. So let's take a look and see what this guy's talking about.
Love the product. I love the brand as a whole, what they stand for, and I think RJ is a terrific leader. I'm really impressed by all the things they've achieved. However, it goes without saying, they just had a pretty rough earnings report, and the stock, at least at the time of recording this video, is pretty much at an all-time low. They announced 10% of their salary.
You see that? You see how low the stock is right now? That's kind of scary. I don't care who you are. That's kind of scary. Look how it started to look where it's
Video
at
is
now.
pretty much at an all-time low. They announced
really dropped.
10% of their salaried workforce is going to be laid off. My apologies.
And see, he said salary workforce, so not to get people who are in the factories. So let's listen to it again. So keep that in mind. It's not. Look at that.
Percent of their salaried workforce is going to be laid off. My apologies to everybody who's about to get their termination notice. And Rivian confirmed kind of what we all knew was coming from the standard range options and all the leasing options appearing, which is that there's a slowdown in electric vehicle demand. And there's a lot of people that are now skeptical of whether or not Rivian has a future, which I think affects kind of the entire EV industry, because we've seen the success story that was Tesla, you know, burning money for several years, but once they hit volume production, they were able to bring in some profits, and now there's very little debate on whether or not Tesla can exist. It's just a question of how big will Tesla be. Are they going to be the robotaxi, AI, and bot company, or are they just going to be a very cool energy company? But no one's really advocating that Tesla's going to die anymore, and many share the belief that, well, Tesla only can succeed because of Elon, and no one else is going to be able to do what Elon was able to do. So many think that if Rivian can't make it, how could any EV startup make it? Because they had so much cash on hand, a tremendous stockpile from their IPO, from investments from Amazon, and they just convinced a lot of fairly big whale investors that they were worth investing in. And of course, now those investors are probably quite sad, but they convinced a lot of people to give them a lot of cash. And basically the analogy I keep coming back to for looking at all of these EV startup companies, and it kind of applies to any startup company in general, is that running these EV startups is kind of like trying to fly a plane that's dropped out of the sky. You pick up a lot of speed as you're plummeting towards the earth, and the altitude of your plane could kind of be looked at as like your cash on hand. Rivian had a ton of cash on hand, so they're starting very high, and they've got all these different products like the R1T and the R1S and the delivery van, and those are all kind of your engines. They're meant to propel you. They're meant to keep you in the air, but when you first start them up, you're kind of nosediving with an EV startup. You're plummeting towards the earth, and they're quickly running out of cash or running out of altitude, and Rivian is banking and hoping on the idea that with this R2 unveil in a couple of weeks, it's going to bring in enough cash or bring in enough altitude, give them an additional engine to pull up before they hit the ground and go bankrupt, and be able to fly and catch up with the other aircraft like the Teslas or the Fords of the automotive industry. And it's a very dangerous maneuver for a company to go through, because in order to build up the R2 line, there's going to be a lot of additional expense. There's going to be a lot of funding and a lot of cash they're going to have to burn through before they see any return on that investment. And that's why a lot of people were quite nervous for Rivian, because they're losing money on every vehicle sold. And the good news is that we got from the earnings report is there's going to be a factory shutdown about halfway through the year that will affect their guidance. They said they didn't expect deliveries to grow this year, kind of like Tesla. They said we're probably going to deliver the same number.
Listen to what he said.
A lot of people were quite nervous for Rivian because they're losing money on every vehicle sold. And the good news is that we got from the earnings report is there's going to be a factory shutdown about halfway through the year that will affect their guidance. They said they didn't expect deliveries to grow this year, kind of like Tesla. They said we're probably going to deliver the same number of cars that we delivered last year. Also, not a great look for a company everybody's kind of pricing in a lot of future growth for. But with that factory shutdown, which will be painful and likely result in a big dip in revenue, they said by the fourth quarter of this year, they expect to achieve a gross profit on the vehicles sold. Keep in mind that is not net profit. It just means that they'll actually be bringing in money from the vehicles they sell. It does not mean that the company as a whole will become profitable. That's going to take longer. But with their dwindling cash pile, a lot of people are wondering, well, Rivian told us the R2 is not going to be ready until 2026. So if the company is still losing money, okay, not as quickly as they are now, but if you're still losing money all throughout 2024 and all throughout 2025, is Rivian going to have enough of a cash pile to get the R2 out there, build the R2 profitably, and ship it worldwide to the point that they can actually get a net profit and not just a gross profit? That's kind of the big question here, and they're not going to be able to pull much from their shareholders if more and more people keep selling on the stock.
So a lot of people are selling their Rivian stock, who believed in it before, but not so much now. So that's one of the problems that they're having. So my question is, one of the questions that was one of the questions was thrown out there: is it time to look for a new job for Rivian? My answer, I think, is no. I think Rivian is going to be a successful company. I think they're going to be around for a long time. It's just sometimes it takes longer for these companies like this to take off. So I would say just stick around with it for the long term and get your money. Like for real, get your money. You know what I'm saying? And don't be nervous. Like I worked at Caterpillar for a long time and we had our dips and things like that and our layoffs and all that stuff like that. And sometimes these companies go through that to try to figure out, they're trying to figure out their niche. And once they figure out that niche, it's on from there. It's on and popping. So I think it's a really great company to work at. I love to see people go there and turn their life around, like they're struggling and stuff like that, or not able to make ends meet, and go to a company like Rivian and turn their whole thing around. You know what I'm saying? It's just one thing, like people, they want people to fail. In general, they just want people to fail. They want people, they love people, America love to see people rise, and they love to see people fall hard. And that's one of the things like people look at nowadays. Like they want to see people who, oh, you're high and mighty, you traveling, you getting stuff, and they want to see those people fall and just, you know what I'm saying? They love a rise and fall story. And then a lot of America loves a story where somebody rises back up. But here with it, like Peoria, we don't want to see you rise sometimes. It's like people almost, when you fall to your lowest point, they feel like you should stay down there and not get back up. But you have to rise back up. You have to become more than that. And we Americans love a great comeback story, but here in Peoria, it's not that same. They don't like a comeback story. They want you to fall and fall hard and be done with. You know, basically pack it up and die. You know what I'm saying? But this is not one of those cases. Um, like I said, it's a billion-dollar company. It's going to be hard for them to fail. I think they're going to start reinventing themselves, especially with the R2 that's coming out. I don't even know what it looks like, but it looks cool. They advertising, they doing what they're supposed to do to keep themselves in the game. So big ups to them. We're gonna watch another video about Rivian. And y'all tell me what y'all think. Leave your comments if you liking what you see. I'm trying to bring more and more of this to the forefront, but I need your help. I need people to tap in and show me some love. That way I can continue building this channel. But this is another video.
Shares of EV maker Rivian down by 10% after the company's production target for the full year was well short of the street's estimates. The EV maker reported a wider adjusted loss per share than expected as well, and said it's cutting 10% of salaried jobs here. So for the full year, Rivian now says it will produce just 57,000 vehicles. The average analyst estimate, I believe, was 80,000, as it does announce this cut of 10% of salaried jobs. It looks like the only number that did not miss estimates was the revenue for the fourth quarter, which came in at $1.32 billion versus the $1.25 billion that analysts had been anticipating. Production in the fourth quarter was also a little higher than estimated, although deliveries at just under 14,000 missed the average analyst estimate.
Yeah, and remember, headed into this report, Julie, this stock was already under a ton of pressure. It was already down about 30%.
So if you got
far
money
this
in
year.
Rivian,
I think there was there have been kind of broader questions, right? How does a company like Rivian sort of navigate this broader slowdown in the EV market, which is tough already for a company like a Tesla, but the challenge is even more acute if you're a smaller EV startup like a Rivian.
Yeah, and there is some commentary from RJ Scaringe, who's the founder and CEO of the company, in the statement here. He talked about great progress in 2023 despite economic headwinds. And he says, we're excited about the year ahead. We're aggressively focused on driving cost efficiency throughout the business, achieving positive margins, and building on our go-to market function to support our long-term growth. And he also highlighted that the next vehicle, the R2, is still set to come out on March 7th.
All right.
We'll see.
Well, let's get more on this. To break down the EV makers report is Jordan Levy, Truist Securities Equity Research Analyst. Jordan, it is great to see you. So, listen, Rivian reports, investors clearly not happy, at least initially here in the after hours, Jordan, but walk us through kind of your reaction, your response to the report.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're kind of in the midst of digesting the report. But, what it seems to be is we already kind of saw street estimates coming in a little higher than we thought the company would report because they are doing that mid-year shutdown. But it does seem like, there's a bigger than expected kind of impact here, given.
See, he confirmed it too. That's the second person who said that they're going to do a mid-year shutdown. So just be prepared for that, y'all.
And all the things we know about interest rates, all the things we know about the demand environment right now. And so it seems like they're reacting to that. They announced a 10% workforce reduction and in salaried employees and that sort of thing. So they are addressing what needs to be addressed, but certainly I think the production slowdown or the lower than expected production is going to disappoint some folks.
Yeah, I mean, I assume that you're amongst those folks who's disappointed, Jordan. I know that your forecast was higher than 57,000 here. Do you think that this is a factor of the general slowing in demand in the EV market, or is there something specific to Rivian?
Yeah, I think it's a mix of both, right? Rivian is still kind of in that stage that Tesla was in its early life when it was sort of in that high-priced vehicle category. Rivian still falls into that bucket ahead of when they launched the R2 vehicle, and as a result, they're maybe a little bit more exposed to these sort of macro swings. And so I do think that's sort of a part of the overall story. But I think all that said, it has to be taken into account that Rivian did execute well in 2023. So some of this is being proactive on their part, I would assume.
And that's the one thing I want to say. A lot of times when companies do like a shutdown or layoffs, they do that proactively. They don't wait for shit to happen. Like Caterpillar's laying down, Caterpillar projects 10 years ahead. So if they see 10 years ahead, shit slowing down, they're going to start laying off now. They're going to start reacting now so they don't be hit with this. So I think this is something like Rivian is reacting to something like years and years ahead. They don't see it happening. So keep that in mind. And then Willie said, I hope they keep that 0 to 60 the same on the R2. From the looks of it, I don't know what it looks. I think it's going to be like a sports car. I don't know. I know some Rivian employees probably seen it and they know what's going to drop. That's why they like, I ain't tripping. I ain't even tripping. Like, this would have changed the world. But it looks like a sports car. You know what I'm saying? So I'm excited to see what it looks like. Definitely to see how it drives and stuff like that. But yeah, the R2 is supposed to save the company. And but like I said, the vehicles are not going to be made here in Bloomington. They're going to be made in Atlanta. So I wonder how that's going to all play out. So, but we would definitely see. We would definitely see what's going to happen with that. So I think that I am going to stop with that there. Some of this stuff is just getting, I like news like the next person, but I don't want to sit here and bore y'all with these facts and stuff like that. But just know, like, I think Rivian is in a good situation. That's what a lot of stock people are saying. If you got a little bit of money, invest. The money's supposed to stay in the market anyway. So take your chances, invest in it while it's low. That's a good tip for you right there. If you want to invest in Rivian and be a millionaire and maybe possibly a billionaire, like some people say you should invest it in Tesla and you'll be a billionaire. They always say buy low, buy low, buy low, buy low. If you're an employee and you got stocks in the company, you might be in a good situation when it take off. And that's the retirement fund. So those are all things to think about. So anyway, with that being said, I want to thank everybody for tapping in, watching. If you want to go back and leave your comments at another time, that's cool too. Make sure you do that. Make sure y'all sharing my posts. Make sure y'all are sharing the live. Make sure you are subscribing to my channel if you're on YouTube. We actually got some Twitter viewers on. We have more Twitter viewers than we had Facebook viewers. So that's pretty cool. Like Twitter is, they tapping in. That's good that I can get to see stuff up here because if you're from my hometown, you have to know, like, they's not gonna support you like that. My hometown is not ready to support you like that. So it's cool to see other people tapping in from other places. And that's kind of how I wanted to do everything and just kind of bring stuff to the forefront. So like other people can see, we still need to get YouTube on board and get YouTube supporting a little bit harder than they support now, but we'll figure that out as things go along. But with that being said, I'm gonna get out of here. This is RJ Studio where I'm recording at or going live from. And my name is Johnny. It's nice to meet y'all, and we out. Thank y'all for tapping in.